Fit in 10 Nation, it is day 35 of the Fit in 10 Challenge, day 35. Can you believe it? We are at the halfway point of the challenge. It goes by so fast, I told you. 70 days seems like a really long challenge, and I used to be part of this mastermind group. I may have told you this down in the States, this like fitness mastermind group. And when I told them I was doing a 70-day challenge, they all thought I was crazy and bananas, and it's not possible. But in my mind, 70 days is short. It is like not long at all. It's merely an introduction, okay? Mind you, I will say that this challenge is probably a little more involved than most other challenges out there, most other fitness challenges, that is. And I remember going to a conference and I had my Fit in 10 shirt on. They're like, oh, you run a 10-day challenge? I'm like, no, it's 10 weeks. Anyways, they thought I was crazy. Everybody did. There's not one person that thought it was a good idea. Anyways, I don't have a point saying that. I'm just saying it's not that long. Okay, question. Electrolytes. Somebody's asked me about electrolytes and their importance. So electrolytes are really important. Okay, so the primary electrolytes in the body are sodium, potassium, magnesium, and sodium, potassium, magnesium, and what am I missing here? Sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. God. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. Those are the primary electrolytes, and these are important for things like regulating your heartbeat and nerve conduction and muscle contraction and hydration, all this type of thing. So sometimes people can say get cramping, and they believe that it's a lack of water, which it could be, but it may also be a lack of electrolytes. So three of those are involved in a muscle contraction, not all four. But nonetheless, they're all very important. And do you know which one of those gets beaten up all the time? That's sodium, and it's like a vital electrolyte for the body. Anyways, you've heard me rant about this before, probably, because I've done it in several videos. So yeah, you gotta make sure you get all those. You need to make sure you get sodium and potassium and magnesium and calcium. So if you are experiencing cramping, or if you've done a lot of activity where you're sweating a lot, or it's very hot out, you may want to consider, especially if you're doing long duration physical activity, you probably would, I would highly recommend that you have an electrolyte mix that you can just put in water. Okay, or you can even buy kids electrolyte drinks. I think it's called, it's a pre-made drink called Pedialyte. I think it still exists. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I hope I answered your question, or you didn't really have a question, you just wanted me to talk about it, so there you go. Which, by the way, this person had thought that it was low blood sugar levels, and then they had decided to take a bunch of carbohydrates, and then they realized it was probably not that, it was electrolytes that was producing symptoms of shakiness. All right. Yeah, if I was shaky too, I would probably think that was glucose. Do I have time to tell you the story? Probably not. I'll tell you a story tomorrow about electrolytes. All right, let's talk about broccoli, because I said I was going to talk about that a few days ago. So broccoli is another food that I would consider, it's definitely a very, very nutrient-dense food. It's high in things like fiber and vitamin K1 and calcium and potassium and manganese. I'm assuming those are bioavailable from the actual vegetable. I don't really know, to be honest with you, but nonetheless, it is in there. It's also very high in antioxidants like quercetin and carbon-3-diol and what else? Oh, sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is huge, by the way. So sulforaphane is very interesting. So if you cook so sulforaphane is basically this compound that is responsible for like turning on 200 genes in your body. 200 like basically anti-aging genes, or genes that are related to aging essentially. And so it's supposed to do all these good things for you, supposedly. I don't know if, I say supposedly because this is relatively new research. And, but the interesting thing is that if you cook your broccoli, you kill the sulforaphane. Well, you don't kill the sulforaphane, you kill the, okay, so this is how it works. Broccoli is very high in something called glucoraphanin. And so the glucoraphanin, via an enzyme called myrosinase, gets converted to sulforaphane. And the sulforaphane is that magical ingredient that we talked about, that I just talked about. But what happens if you heat broccoli, you kill the myrosinase enzyme. But interestingly enough, what you can do is if you put mustard seed on your broccoli, on your cooked broccoli that is, you can still get your sulforaphane. Because mustard seed is very high in myrosinase. Okay, so just something to think about. If you want that sulforaphane, which appears to be just like a God-sent compound, apparently, at least that's what it's touted as, just add some mustard seed to your broccoli. Okay, that is if it's cooked. If it's raw, I think you're going to get it in full, hopefully. But I don't know if you're going to get the other nutrients. It's really hard to get nutrients from vegetables. That's the one thing that you don't often get told, is that nutrients from vegetables, fruits are a little bit easier, but vegetables are definitely harder to get it out of. So sometimes you got to cook them. I know that with some vegetables, if you chop them up and they're exposed to the air, even just the air will help to, it will oxidize the vegetables in some capacity, and that will make them more, that will make the nutrients more available. All right, so some interesting tidbits on broccoli. It's considered a cruciferous vegetable, and most cruciferous vegetables, again, are low in carbohydrates, they're high in fiber, and they're packed full of nutrients. Okay? All right, 7 minutes to get the message of the day. Do you want to know what is really the true one thing that separates a beginner from the master? I know some of you know the answer to this. Do you guys know what the difference is? Is that the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. Right? This is definitely not the week that you will quit, right? Because you have barely even begun to try. So I want you to keep trying, even doing whatever you can in the challenge, and just do your best. Okay? Try to improve every week. Okay? Which reminds me, when you send me your feedback, you need to give me something specific that you will improve upon. And a lot of you give me very vague things, like I'm going to work out harder. We want to essentially work towards something that is, that makes you accountable. Okay, and if it's vague, you can't be, it's really hard to be accountable to something that's very vague. We want to be very specific. So, it could be something like, I want to deadlift 100 pounds. I deadlifted 100 pounds 8 times last week. This week I'm going to get it for 9. I'm shooting for 9. Okay? But I would rather you really focus on things that you have full control over. Like, I'm going to plan all my meals this week. I'm going to do a bunch of food prep on Sunday or something like that. Okay? Something very specific. So getting back to it, do you really want to know what the difference is between basically a beginner and a master? The master has failed. The master has failed. I'm going to say this again. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. So this is so important. Listen, if you're not failing, I don't even like using that word. If you're not encountering moments, whatever you're working towards, if you're not encountering moments where you have these, if you're encountering moments during your quest for whatever you're working towards where you question your ability, or you reach that moment where it seems like you're not cut out for something, or it seems like you're not capable of it, or it seems like it's not possible for you, this is all growth, and this is part of the process of working towards anything. It's very unlikely that you will ever work towards anything and not encounter moments where what you will consider to be moments of failure. And I run through this often, and sometimes it's just the littlest things, and it's just a constant reminder to myself. And I know that most of you, if not all of you, in fact, I'll venture to say that it's all of you, go through that at some point or several points in your life. But you got to remember that, you know, if you want to do something and it's really failure, it's the fear of failure that's stopping you, then I'm going to tell you just to keep going. You need to keep going, and you need to stick to it. All right? All right, submit and commit. Keep submitting and committing. In fact, try to submit and commit even more than what you are. All right? Positive energy, positive vibes. Give some gratitude, and for the love of God, believe in yourself. Failure means nothing, or what you may perceive as failure means nothing. You just have to understand that when you go down the road to whatever you're working towards, in this case a challenge, you can't expect the road to be paved 100% perfectly smooth. You're gonna hit bumps. That's normal. Just remember that, all right? All right, clicker, are you working? Because you weren't working earlier. Let's give this a shot. See you guys.